All right, great. So welcome to this workshop. It's on holistic graduate success, navigating the invisible curriculum, your personal academic journey. I'm Jonathan Aragon, and I'm doing this workshop with Eric. We both work for the Center for Academic and Faculty Excellence here at Claremont Graduate University. You want to say hi, Eric?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our February 6th webinar. I hope we're staying dry and let's have a good time.
All right. Doing great. Glad to hear it. So, why do this? Why do this workshop? Well, I collect some research. I do interviews with different graduate students, and I have a lot of conversations at the end of a lot of these workshops. And so I'm really trying to do workshops that I feel like are helping you get some of your needs met that maybe you're not getting explicitly from other places. So I'm always looking for new topics and ideas that you feel like will benefit you and help you the most. We are the Center for Academic and Faculty Excellence. So we do a lot of faculty excellence stuff, like helping you prepare for faculty jobs and careers, and we do professional development training for faculty as well. This is more of the academic excellence side, where I'm just trying to provide you with resources to help you succeed in graduate school. All right. So share the caption. See, this is why it's good to have slides because it reminds you to do things. All right, so I've enabled the caption below. So if you click that CC button, you'll see my words spoken as I speak it. If you want to see my words spoken as I speak it. And this is your time, so participate however you feel move to, if you want to jump in and start a discussion or ask a question or anything like that along the way, please feel free to do so. You're not going to throw me off or anything like that. This isn't the kind of workshop where it's like you just sit back, collect information. I prefer it to be interactive, right? So feel free to interact or not. All right. So to get to the information giving aspect of this, what is the invisible curriculum or the hidden curriculum, as it's also called? The hidden curriculum in academia refers to the implicit and unspoken norms, expectations, and social rules that individuals are expected to navigate, including understanding research funding structures, seeking mentorship, and grasping the nuanced language of the academic syllabi, contributing to an uneven playing field sometimes and particular challenges for those that may not, be coming into academia in the traditional sense. So it's kind of expected, but not explicitly stated, that will uncover these sort of nuanced secrets to success in academia and meeting those expectations and learn to navigate it during your time in graduate school to like show that, you belong in academia. Although I personally don't want you to feel the need to prove that you belong, but there are like gatekeepers in academia that feel like, oh, these are how you should look on paper, sort of thing. And anyway, we'll get into more of that. Here's like a little like diagram I put together to kind of illustrate the different aspects of the invisible curriculum. So you're really navigating these four different circles, right? You have your department, right? So when we think of your department, we're thinking of the hidden pathways to succeed within the department, the nuanced understanding of how things work, relationships between the faculty and the students, um, the university, the unwritten guidelines for success, the hidden aspects of the administrative process, you know, and academia, the shared and often unspoken norms and expectations that are prevalent across the academic landscape, which will be um, probably more important when you're thinking of networking at conferences outside of your home school or when you're going on to the job market after you graduate. So, to help with this definition a little bit, what is the opposite, right? So the explicit curriculum is like what is written to you, what is given to you in your master's degree handbook or your PhD handbook. This is like these are the marks you must hit in order to get your degree. But there's a lot more to it, as I'm sure you're finding out, than what's explicitly written, right? There's all different sorts of there's all sorts of different expectations that aren't written that's kind of assumed that you'll just figure it out along your way. Um, and then I have this little arrow in the middle where it all overlaps, and it's called like being successful in academia, balancing personal fulfillment with meeting the expectations and fostering a sustainable and thriving lifelong career in academia. Blah, blah, blah. What I'm trying to say there is that you have one of your primary goals while you're in graduate school is to build a career that's satisfying and fulfilling for you, while at the same time meeting these implicit expectations of the academic culture. And so ideally, we want to strike a balance between all those things. We want to navigate this invisible curriculum, the explicit curriculum, and make sure that we're building a career that we actually want to have. Because the last thing you want to do is jump through a bunch of hoops just to realize that when you get to the other side, you've built a life around pleasing other people, and the one person you haven't pleased is yourself. And I want to keep it real, right? So we have unique challenges that are unique to us here. So some of the challenges we have at Claremont Graduate University is that we're largely a commuter school. We have international students that live on campus or near campus and are here a lot more. And then we have a lot of other students that are commuting to campus. So that might create some challenges in terms of like getting the informal advice from other students that you would normally have when you bump into each other at the cafeteria or in between classes. Maybe those conversations that don't happen as readily over Zoom always. It's also a graduate only institution, which might create some challenges in terms of meeting some of those invisible expectations of academia. Like you're expected, if you're going to a faculty job market path, that you've spent like 3 years teaching college classes and you have teaching evaluations, or that you've really been networking with the larger academic community. Being a graduate only institution, that isn't always the case. It also creates some challenges in like realizing what your worth actually is. Because if you're at an institution with an undergraduate population, you can see that you're moving ahead, right? But here, it's like you and people that are way far into their careers, like they had so much success before they even got to CGU that that's how they got tenure. So you got other graduate students, and then you got professors, basically. Um, and then we have an absence of assistantships. So if you're in a PhD program, for instance, um, a lot of other schools have funding packages where they give you like a teaching job and a research job, and they give you a full tuition waiver, right? Here you don't really have that. So those are experiences that you have to go and get on your own. And I want to be careful with how I say this because although I'm keeping it real, I'm not calling them problems. I'm calling them challenges because every school you go to is going to have its own challenges. Every program will. That is, that's just life, right? That is the fun of life, really, is that nothing is ever perfect and you get to overcome these challenges and make your own path. So we've had students come from UCLA programs there, come here because they're just not getting that one-on-one attention from their faculty that they really wanted to. They're mostly being taught by TAs and they're just struggling to get the mentorship that they're seeking. So there's trade-offs, right? Even though these might be challenges, it doesn't mean that it's bad. It's not good or bad. It's just the reality of what you're dealing with. And that might be more important here because we are such a unique school that um, some of this stuff might not make sense, say, to a hiring committee when you go on a job market. Um, if you had to work full time to get through school and it takes you a bit longer, there might be questions as to like why did it take you so long to get your degree, for instance, right? Or why don't you have more teaching experience? Or how, go to these conferences. How much did you publish? Blah, blah, blah. Right? So the reason I bring it up is because that doesn't mean you can't have those things. You can't overcome these challenges. It's just that it's good to be aware of what these implicit expectations are so that you can use your time in graduate school super effectively and make those things happen, right? And that's one of the things we try to do at the Center for Academic and Faculty Excellence is, for instance, give you those teaching opportunities and that training that you might not otherwise get. All right. Amelia Wade says, hey, can you give us an example, even if made up, of a department, university, academic nuance that you mentioned in the previous slide? Yeah, so
Jonathan, thank you. That was me.
yeah. So you want an example of a nuance, right? So
Yeah, just any example of each. Thank you.
yeah. So I'll give you an example of a nuance. Like there might be a specific academic department where their way of getting you to satisfy a lot of the explicit curriculum is to work on your faculty's research projects and write papers with them. Um, but it's not explicitly stated that there's an expectation that you're going to develop your own program of research while you're in graduate school, that you're going to get grants to support your research because when you graduate, you're going to have to do research talks and you're going to have to like show that you can get funding and support your own program of interest. So your department may not explicitly say to you that you got to figure out how to balance doing the things your faculty wants you to do with the things that you need to do for your career and find a way to make those things harmonious. Right? So that might be an example of a nuance in terms of a department. A nuance in terms of the university like level, it's like here are the things you have to formally do on paper but there's exceptions, right? And you don't know there's exceptions if you don't go and ask for an exception, or you may not know, oh, I need this form for this or that. At the university level, there also might be just ways to get things done more effectively. It's like you're supposed to go through this process, but there might be a more efficient way to get through the process and make things happen that you wouldn't know if you weren't talking to someone that's already had to do what you're trying to go through. Like for instance, like going through the IRB process for a study, like, how do they want that written in a way that you're not doing revisions over and over again so you can get your study started sooner. And then in academia, I think I mentioned some examples of that. I mean, I'm thinking of like a PhD program, if you're going into it, they really want to see a lot of, if you're going on a research path, they want to see that you've published a lot, that you went to a school with a good name, that you worked with faculty that are famous for something, that you went to a bunch of conferences, all this, right? Of course, all those things aren't going to be a reality for everybody, but that you're doing something at least novel to set yourself like apart in terms of that. And those aren't things that are going to be written in your handbook, but it's just sort of expected. If you're going into practice, then you want to have some, you want to be getting the experience in practice while you're in graduate school. Did that help?
Thank you. Yeah, that's really helpful. Thank you very much.
Yeah. And so there are the other invisible aspect I think is important to know that isn't written here is that there are different phases of acculturation into academia that you go through in graduate school. So you have your phase, which is getting your foundational courses in. Then you go through a phase where you're doing your expert courses. Then you have the phase where you're in the qualifying exams. And then, you're writing your studies. And then you have the phase of like defense. And each one of those phases is like a totally different shift in what the expectations are from you and the level of independence you need to operate at. And part of what makes the journey sort of difficult for some to navigate is the fact that this is very different from undergrad. When you're in undergrad, you kind of figure out how to navigate the academic landscape by checking off boxes. But if you're in, like, say, a PhD program, the expectation is that you're going to be able to do everything pretty much largely independently. But if you need support, you're going to seek it out, and that you're going to tell your department what you need for them in order for you to succeed. And the expectation might be that you're just supposed to figure it out behind the scenes. And if you try to do that and you don't express your needs, then a lot of time and money could be, not wisely spent. Okay. So I after saying all that scary stuff, I just want to sort of emphasize that your chief responsibility above all is to meet your own expectations and have a satisfying career. Right. So I cross out successful and say satisfying because it's really about the lifestyle that you want to live, right? If you don't want to write a bunch of research papers, maybe a more satisfying academic career for you is creating programs and educational interventions where you're doing research on your own practice and your own teaching, as opposed to writing like journal articles, for instance. So at the end of the day, it's creating a map of like where do you want to go in your life and your career, and how do you use your time while in graduate school to help make that a reality. And talking to people and figuring out what these implicit expectations are so you can tailor it in a way that you're like, yeah, I meet this expectation by doing this thing that serves my ultimate career needs. All right, so the goal is not to get a degree, right? Because yes, you want to get a degree, but the degree is not what makes the career. The career is what you make it. So yeah, the overall goal is to have a satisfying career. And the degree is there to support you in doing that. And it's kind of a signal to the rest of the world that you're credible in your field. All right, great. So let's get to the fun stuff here. I'm trying to switch to my slide on my iPad, but it's not working. Okay, great. So I think it's like a minute. I'm going to put this in chat for you. So spend about a minute or two and solo write out some of these questions that you might have. What are you struggling with right now? What insider knowledge do you need? What are your burning questions? What strategies have you discovered in navigating your graduate school journey? What has been surprisingly helpful? And what has been unexpectedly challenging? So obviously don't write all of those. Just pick one that you feel like will help you the most right now. All right, great. So now I'm going to put you to a breakout room, and I want you to share what you wrote with your partner. I'm just going to do breakout rooms of 2. So share 1 to 3 things, however many you wrote with your partner, and have your partner share their insights, and then we'll switch. So what do you think we should do? Should I pair you based on your academic program, or would you like to just to be random?
Random sampling.
Random sampling. Okay, great.